All right, we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rych. Tonight we have two special guests on, Jay Becker and Patricia Wallen from Rise Up for Abortion Rights. Welcome, ladies.
Hi,
Hi.
good evening.
Jay, we actually had you on a few months ago for this, representing the same organization. So why don't we kick it off, let viewers know how this organization got started and what its general mission is, even though you can pretty much tell from the name. But Jay, if you want to do that, or Patricia, whomever.
Hey,
I'm getting feedback.
You are now?
I'm hearing things twice, it delayed.
Yeah, okay, maybe you can take your headphones off and we'll just have to deal with that sound. Did you get that? Unplug your headphones. Yeah, turn your headphones off. Yeah, we'll just have to deal with the sound if it comes back. Can you hear us now? Okay. So could you give us a brief history of the organization, how it got started, when it got started?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Cool. Can you give us a brief history of the organization, how it got started?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that is a serious delay.
Yeah.
I heard that. That's weird. Okay, it's something we're just going to have to contend with.
I'm hearing you 3 times. Okay, let's try it. Refuse fascism was Rise Up for Abortion Rights was a
Huh.
It's so crazy,
Ladies
David.
and gentlemen, we're having some technical difficulties here.
okay, I think I can. Yeah, I think I can go ahead. I mean, I wasn't there from the beginning, like Jay has, but I know that Rise Up for Abortion Rights was born because I think in December of 2021 or January, they started hearing about what the Supreme Court was poised to do regarding abortion rights. And that's when the organization started. We had to act and have a movement of resisting against what the Supreme Court was planning to do. That's when there were arguments at the Supreme Court about why abortion should be banned in the United States. And that's when we started hearing all of this. And Jay and Sunsara Taylor, Neil Hoffman, all of these people came together to create Rise Up for Abortion Rights. I actually joined in March, the following March. I knew that I actually had looked up about who is doing something about abortion rights for International Women's Day in Chicago, and that's how I found this organization because they were being active about resisting what and telling the public and telling everyone, denouncing what the Supreme Court was planning to do regarding abortion rights.
Yeah, I don't think that a lot of people, some people heard about like you said, how they were poised to do it, like back in December of the year of 2021. There was some sort of like set of memos sent between the justices about it and that kind of thing. But I don't think anybody took it very seriously until it happened.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, everybody's like, whoa, whoa, what's going on? So, yeah, okay, well, thanks for that. And do you have like charters, clubs, that kind of thing throughout the country? Is it just one centralized movement? Is it just here in Chicago? What does it look like?
Yeah, no, there's chapters all over the United States. We have them in California, Texas, here in Chicago, where I'm from the one in Chicago. Um, Atlanta, Denver, you name it. There's organizations in clubs and chapters in every major city, and anyone listening, wherever they are, they can start their own or join one that's already in place. And you can look up our information at rise up for number 4 abortionrights.org to find your local chapter And if there isn't one, you can start your own and we can help.
Rise Up, number 4. What else?
Rise Up for number 4, abortionrights.org.
Let me get that up there.
Yes, so the work that Rise Up does is taking to the streets, demanding and telling everyone what is going on about what the court was doing with abortion rights. And then when we had the leak from the Supreme Court, that's when a lot of people actually joined too, because then that's when we knew what they were really going to do about Roe. And then, of course, in July, that's when the decision came. And thankfully, a lot of our chapters and our groups had already, been doing a lot of activism and a lot of protesting. And when the leak came, we were there in Washington. A lot of us, came to Washington. We were sleeping outside the Supreme Court. We were marching. It was unbelievable, but unfortunately not enough to make a big wave, make a big green wave across the United States, to stop what they were doing. So they, in July, that's when the decision came about abortion rights and turning Roe versus Wade around for us. So.
Okay. Yeah, no, it was really disconcerting when that happened last year because, I mean, first of all, the 3 newest judges, I don't know, I'm probably not going to remember their name, Kavanaugh, and the other 2, all said that they weren't going to touch Roe versus Wade when they were being interviewed by Congress. And then they did. Just awful. They lied. And some people think they should be impeached because of that. Like you said, you weren't doing it, and that was like one of your first things you did. So
exactly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I got involved, because I actually was born in El Salvador, a country in Latin America where abortion is already 100% banned, prohibited, criminalized. And I remember when I joined back in March for International Women's Day here in Chicago, that was part of my speech to them and to the people. Fight for the right that you still have, protest, go to the streets, demand, make your voice heard, because pretty soon, if they approve this, the United States could turn into a third world country like El Salvador and have abortion rights stripped away. And sadly, that is what we're seeing now. A lot of people that can't get access to safe abortion, we're suffering the consequences now, and it's just keep growing now with what Jay was talking about, what the judge in Texas is planning to do. And he's a federal judge that is trying to ban an FDA approved drug that helps with abortion for the first weeks of pregnancy.
Yeah. Jay, did you want to speak to that? Nope, can't hear you.
No, we lost her.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Can you hear us? Yeah, we can't hear you. Your mic is on, as far as I can tell. Okay, well, I'm guessing you got to do something on your end to turn your mic back on, or like through your computer, because on live on StreamYard it's on. So I can't hear you. Did you want to turn your camera off and maybe try to troubleshoot it, and Patricia and I will keep talking a little bit? Okay. That's unfortunate, because I know Jay has a lot to say about this organization.
Yeah.
Itself. Yeah, no, I heard about the federal judges who's deciding on the future of this activity concerning the mailing of abortion pills throughout the states. Because some states had trigger laws in effect. So when the Supreme Court shot down Roe, immediately the next day, it became illegal in certain states. And then some afterwards, they made it illegal. And it's all craziness. Okay, Jay, you there? Okay, that's bad. Actually, I needed to add you to stream. Maybe that's what happened. Okay, well, I can hear you. Can you hear us? Okay.
I can hear you. I get an echo effect.
Well,
yeah, I can hear the echo effect as well. Is that something you're okay with contending with for a little while? Okay. We were just talking about the federal judge in Texas, like you mentioned before the show, and this is Trump-appointed judge, which is disconcerting for sure, because this whole thing, and I don't want to offend anybody, but this whole thing I think is obviously driven by the religious right in this country. I don't see anybody outside of like just very religious Christians opposing abortion on moral grounds or any other grounds. Like, I don't see it. I see people saying they prefer to see less of them, but don't want to make it illegal. Some people even call it Christian fascism. That they're just taking their own Christian ideology and imposing it on other people through the law, which is definitely this history's had that share of that for sure. A lot of countries do. Like you said, Patricia, in El Salvador, I mean, I'm guessing that it's illegal, extremely illegal down there because it's just a very Catholic country, right? I don't think that's unsafe or discriminatory to say. I think that's pretty blatantly true, and can be backed up by all sorts of evidence. So, I mean, do either or both of you want to speak to that part of it? I mean, is it frustrating to you that it's that way? I mean, if you're whatever religious cloth you are cut from, I mean, did you find that to be, what do you think about it?
Definitely. The Dobbs decision that overthrew Roe was based strictly on religious grounds. Really, when you cut through it, it's a theological. They threw out 50 years of legal precedent with no grounds other than their religious ideological thinking.
Right.
And we know that the majority of people in this country support the right to abortion over and over again. But that's exactly why they are using these kinds of maneuvers like this lawsuit to get their way. People, they have gerrymandered states so extremely that I call them Republic fascists, have majorities far beyond what their electoral count would justify. But people still want to think that we can just elect our way out of this. And that's really delusional. For instance, if this judge, which is almost certain he will rule to revoke FDA approval of mifepristone, that the ACLU will appeal and they'll ask for an injunction, but it goes to the Fifth Circuit, which is one of the most reactionary in the country. That's the judges who let SB 8 stand, that threw out Roe before the Supreme Court threw it out. And then from the Fifth Circuit, it goes to the Supreme Court.
Right. And then they were screwed there.
Yeah. It's the same kind of reasoning that the Supreme Court used to overthrow Roe. So we are not going to, this is why Rise Up for Abortion Rights exists. We need a political resistance movement. And without this, the more they get away with these things, they got away with Dobbs, if they get away with outlawing mifepristone, the more they're emboldened to do more.
Right. Yeah. Everybody, just so you know, the viewers, on the comments section, you'll see a long list of events coming up for Rise Up for Abortion Rights organization. You want to check that out. Also, to sign up to get involved, you can see here down here, and I'm going to put this up on the YouTube page and the Facebook page after the show, so it's there permanently. You don't have to watch the video to get to it, and you can sign up through there. Very impressive organization. You grew fast. I mean, this is like what, a year old?
No, June 24th.
Oh, not even. Okay, June 24th. I mean, that's and like I mean, I see outside of the show, I see tweets, not tweets, but like TikTok. I mean, you're all over the place. People know about you. Do you have a measure of like how many people you have like signed up officially, or is it a sign up officially sort of organization?
I'm having a hard time how many people have signed up?
Like, is it like, do you tally your participation population by people who have signed up, or like just kind of like look over a crowd at a protest and go, okay, there's about 1,000 people here. Like, how do you do it? Or do you do it? Or do you even bother with that?
Well, sometimes I know that when we've had marches and protests, the police themselves would tell us according by blocks. For example, like in July when the leak came out, they told us how many blocks, and that's approximately 2,000 people. Some are smaller with like 100. It just changes every time, but it's more in the warmer months.
Go ahead.
We've people. I think there's a great deal of anger and anxiety and fear, especially among younger people, facing the fact that millions of women and girls have no right to abortion right now. But so many, we were told that vote in November. That's the way you're going to regain your rights. And Joe Biden promised, as soon as we're back in, we're going to codify Roe. We're going to turn it into a federal law. Well, he knew that was not going to be possible, right? They did not have they did not have the numbers in the Senate and the House to do that. And now they're even in a worse position. So there's been a concerted effort on the part of the Democratic Party establishment, the pro-choice establishment, to pacify people, to tell them that they'll take care of it. Just donate and vote. And that's where, and there was a lot of attacks on Rise Up for Abortion Rights, that we were exaggerating the danger. Don't worry about it. We've got the pill. Even if they overturn Roe, we've got the pill. And we said from the beginning, we are living in a country with the most powerful criminal injustice system in the world.
Yeah.
To think that they will not go after the pill and every other means of abortion. Dahlia Lithwick wrote in Politico, our salon, her headline was, Dobbs was just the beginning. And now we're seeing it. And people were saying, well, even if we'll still get health care. And women who are having miscarriages are being sent home to bleed out.
Yeah.
They will not give them you've read about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's nuts.
And we were wearing white pants with fake blood on them, bloody pants, to represent that. And people say, oh, that's not going to happen anymore.
Because in some states, the way they define abortion doesn't include includes miscarriages or DCH. Is that what it's called? DNCs. That's it, right? Which is just
that's what it used to be.
DNC. Yeah. So no, it's nuts. It's barbaric. It just took the entire Western civilization back about 1,000 years. Before the Enlightenment hit. So we're combining church and state again, and all the crap that comes along with that. They're probably gonna, I know that people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like if she could outlaw not being Christian, she would. She's one of those people who would love to arrest you, put you in jail just because you're not a Christian. like that kind of craziness. She's nuts. So yeah, it's a tough time for sure. That's okay. It's really, and one of the things I had Eric Reinhardt, the Lake County State's attorney, on a couple weeks ago talking about policing and the Safety Act, and it's just the whole notion of like bodily autonomy is at the base of all of these things. And the thing is that our politicians, our government loves to cherry pick issues, and they really lack consistency across the board. He was talking about like the supposed special rights of police, being able to grab you and shackle you in chains and blah blah blah. I'm like, well, are you pro-choice? He's like, yeah. I'm like, why would you be pro-choice? Because it's the woman's body. That same logic applies to policing. The government doesn't get to just grab your body and do whatever he wants to it. Okay, it's the same thing. This is mine. Okay, and nobody else's. But our government doesn't seem to understand that. I mean, it really gets me angry that the thought that somebody can just come up and grab me and throw me in the face. Sorry, go ahead. That's my rant.
Well, that doesn't apply to women and girls. It doesn't. Since Roe was overthrown, we are second-class citizens now.
Yeah, exactly.
Our reproduction is now legislated. And feminists have long argued, and the argument is being taken up again, that the 13th Amendment applies, which outlaws involuntary servitude.
Yeah.
This is what this is. The government is taking over our bodies and telling us what we are going to do. And the United States has one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the developed world. It's involuntary servitude with a possible death sentence.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what we are being taught to accept. And it's completely unacceptable. That's why Rise Up for Abortion Rights exists.
Yeah. Patricia?
That's why one of our big slogans is forced motherhood is female enslavement.
Yeah, 100% it is. Forced anything is enslavement. That's what it means to be enslaved, is that you're forced against your will to do something in the most general sense. So I mean, I don't know. It just boggles my mind to like read about the history of this country, that it supposedly started on like, freedom and liberty. Like, my butt. Anyway, so but it also started on the genocide of one race and the enslavement of another. Give me a break. Anyway, so okay. Before I get too angry, do you want to talk about some of the events coming up and what's going on more immediately?
Well, this is next week is International Women's Day. Ooh. And we are right now in this country and in the world. What role women are going to play in society is really up for grabs in a way that it hasn't been in decades. Are we going to get slammed back into second-class status, where we can't even determine what we do with our lives because your career or your education could be interrupted because you're forced to carry not one, maybe two. You could even lose your life because you can't get the health care you need. It's really, we're at a crossroads. This has to do with what we're doing with our lives. And it's not just here. I mean, look at the uprising in Iran for the other side of the coin. Women are leading a revolution there.
It's awesome.
It is.
We also have, from Latin America, we look up to the women in Latin America too, that they have the green bandana movement. It's called the Green Wave. And this is, like you said in the beginning, countries where they're very religious countries, very conservative. Women, have no right for abortion. And these are countries like Colombia, Argentina, Mexico, that have fought. Women came together and fought they took to the streets with the green bandanas, wearing this is like a symbol that we in the United States have taken up as well, because the green bandana is their symbol of fighting back and demanding their rights. And countries, so many countries in Latin America where the right for abortion is prohibited. Well, right now, Argentina, Mexico, Colombia have won back the right for abortion,
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
uniting with the green bandana and the green wave.
yeah.
So we're following their example and inviting people to join and rise up.
Yeah, that's great. I heard that about. Well, I heard that about Mexico when it happened a few years ago. That's great, and it's nice to see that that is happening, because I think that becomes a model for us. I think people look at it and say, well, if it can happen in those very religious type countries, surely we could. Because I mean, still, I think the majority of people in America, American citizens, aren't like crazy religious. They're probably, I think we would consider them religious to a certain extent, but not like, I need to impose my Shira law on you through the Constitution, or anything like that. In fact, I looked up like religion and abortion and the morality thereof, and then all I could find really is that as a whole, religion as a collective, Christianity is the only one that's really opposed to it. Like somehow it's in the Bible. Like as far as I know, Judaism. I mean, there might be specific Jewish people that are opposed to it, but Judaism itself, like overall, doesn't seem to take a claim on it. Islam doesn't seem to take a claim on it. Buddhism doesn't really care. So, like, I mean, it was just a specifically Christian thing, which is frustrating. So here's something I heard about yesterday. Tell me what you think of this: the unforeseen consequences of making abortion illegal, based on the premise that the fetus is a person with rights. Then what happens when you incarcerate a pregnant woman? You also incarcerated an unborn person with rights, which would be
Right.
illegal. Have you heard that?
Yeah, that case, I think it's in Georgia. That's a really double-edged sword, though, because if that logic were accepted, then it's another doorway for fetal personhood, and that's a very that's part of this evangelical fascist theory.
Right, but I
Because
think the idea.
then,
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
of course, abortion is homicide because you've killed a person. That fetus is a person. And there are 4 states right now that are considering legislation to classify abortion as homicide.
Right.
And those are states where homicide carries the death penalty.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
So that may be a clever argument for one person to get out of jail, but it's a very dangerous argument. A fetus is not a person. A fetus is
definitely not. I don't know what the problem is. Yeah,
and that's an education that we have to do. A fetus is not a person. A woman is not an incubator. But that is exactly what this whole movement is trying to do. This is revenge. This is a movement of vicious, misogynist revenge against women for the advances that we have made in the last 50 years. I mean, we all know that women are not liberated in this country, right? We're not paid equal. We don't have childcare. The women still bear the greater part of the burden for all the right. We have a rape culture in this country. We have violent pornography everywhere. You have to be worried about walking out in the street at night if you happen to be carrying a uterus. So this is not a liberated, but still, the advances that women have been made have provoked this counter. It's a counter revolution, a counter movement of these evangelical fascists, and that's why they're not going to quit. That's why the crazy illogic that you're talking about, the hypocrisy, because underneath it, that's their goal, is to slam women back into a subordinate position, subordinate to men and subordinate to the government. And it's right in there, intertwined with white supremacy.
Oh yeah.
It's all of a program, and anti-immigrant, anything not American. And I'll say we are not legitimate citizens to them.
Right. You're like the 3/5 clause people. I mean, they wouldn't say that, but you're certainly treated that way.
Yeah,
Crazy.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I like to point out the trigger ban in Wisconsin that went into effect, that was passed in 1849.
Right. Yeah.
How appropriate.
Yeah. Way to keep up with the times. That's I mean, as much as I, loathe and lament our founding fathers, the Constitution's cool in the sense that it gets to change. And that, so like pointing out that, the trigger law was set, over 150 years ago is just kind of, I don't know, stupid. It's just
during
like, why
slavery
would you do that?
days.
The slavery days. That's before the Civil War. I mean, that's crazy. Anyway, Patricia, did you want to talk a little bit more about like maybe your personal involvement in this? Like, do you have any sort of ministerial positions, or are you out there with the signs? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this, and Jay brought it up too about, there's so many people just waiting for our government or politicians to do something about it. But Rise Up for Abortion Rights is all about making women's voice heard. We it's not about, like here in Chicago, we have the right for abortion still, but it's not about which state has the right and which state doesn't, and we're gonna fight in this state and we're gonna win our right back in this state. Rise Up for Abortion Rights is just saying that women's rights are not up for grabs.
Right. That's interesting too. This is like deeply philosophical, but the beginning and the framework of the Declaration of Independence, three inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, actually is a quote from John Locke, who was a political philosopher back from England. And we get the framework of our democracy from his writings. But the point is that he specifically said, once you give society rights, you can't take it away. You don't get to do this back and forth crap. So, like when I first heard about Roe being taken, I'm like, you can't do that. I mean, does anybody in the government know where this country came from? That kind of thing. And so, I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, but I remember it drove me crazy. Like, you can have it. Nope, no, you can't. Here you go. Nope. Do you want to speak to that? The massive inconsistency in our supposed justice system?
I think, if I understood your comment correctly, the overturning of Roe, taking away a constitutional right to abortion, is the greatest robbery, the greatest defeat, the greatest overturning of a established constitutional right in the history of this country.
Right.
Ever. Why are the streets not flooded?
Right.
Something that is such an invasion of your most private life, your most private decisions are stripped away. When is this? Which is the straw that's going to break the camel's back? What's
right.
the fire that's going to unleash the conflagration?
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, yeah, I agree. I'm surprised that we wouldn't see the same sort of protests and riots that we did when George Floyd was killed. Like, I was really expecting something that incendiary and that bombastic, and I didn't see it. I saw photos of some marches and some protests, but they were very peaceful. And the right, wrong, or indifferent. I mean, I don't know. I don't see peaceful protests doing as much good as other ones. But I don't think Derek Chauvin would be in jail if people just held some signs in the street. No way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we were hurt by a lot of, frankly, identity politics that doesn't even recognize women as an oppressed group.
Yeah.
Doesn't even confront that. There's such a lack of understanding of what patriarchy is. You know, one of the slogans in International Women's Day event that we're going to be speaking at is capitalism and patriarchy. You can't end one without ending the other.
That's true. That's definitely true. Well, definitely in this country, because they are tied together from the beginning.
Exactly, from the beginning, and that's where abortion is such a battering ram. You know, one of our slogans is abortion is freedom. Mm-hmm. Abortion, we need them. Abortion is freedom. It in and of itself, it doesn't free us, but without it, we cannot become free. I think that, but because it's so integral to women's role in society, which has been subordinate as long as there's been classes, as long as there's patriarchy. And every system has figured out how to incorporate that, right? How to incorporate patriarchy, including capitalism. But there's such a dearth of understanding of that, so that people could think, well, we'll just donate and save, like Patricia was talking about, go state by state. It's a complete misunderstanding of what this Christian fascist program is aiming to do. The Supreme Court said, oh, we're sending it back to the states to decide. That was a smokescreen. Yeah. And too many, the big pro-choice groups all ran with that. They all, oh yeah, we're going to fight them in Wisconsin. We're going to fight them in Kansas. No, you can't. You have to wage those. But if it's not for everyone, we are all going to lose. That's what we've said. One woman is not free. No woman is free.
No, that's true. That's very true. It's all one idea of womanhood that's being attacked. You're exactly right. It's not just individual specific women here and there. It's your inviolable right, bodily rights as a woman, your reproductive rights. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, and I don't, there's this thing that's, going around like, well, if you do that with women, then maybe you should make men, be forced to get vasectomies, before they go out and have sex before marriage or something like that. Because you can always reverse them, that kind of, if they want to have kids later. Everybody's like, no, we're not going to do that. So, and I also want to talk about the misogyny and patriarchy of this country, because we were talking about like running down a list of things before. And I brought this up the last time you were on the show, Jay, that policing as a profession is the top profession for domestic abuse and domestic violence, conducted 99% of the time by male police officers at home. And they're talking, the independent studies have shown at least 40% of police officers have had domestic abuse or violence in their houses at some point. 40%. It's insane. And and so I mean, just again, and they get away with it because of the blue wall of silence and all that nonsense, and bros hanging out and making sure they're covering each other's backs, and that kind of thing. And so yeah, it's really unfortunate. It's number one profession is the people that get to grab us and do whatever they want to our bodies. That's insanity. Anyway,
speaking of misogyny, we would be remiss not to bring out the connection to this, to enforcing all kinds of gender roles, so to speak. That these same forces this is the same Christian fascist forces that are trying to outlaw drag shows, literally outlaw drag shows, that are denying medical, AMA-approved medical treatment to trans youth. It's really incredibly dangerous.
It is dangerous. Yeah, they're going after everybody. Drag shows. Why would they care about drag shows? Like, who cares? Like, I mean, I've been to many. I love them. They're extremely entertaining, and they're fabulous people. I'm not gay, and that doesn't matter. I've known plenty of them. But when I used to live in Portland, Oregon, with this other stuff was highly tolerated, very highly tolerated. Fabulous time living there. And also just to remind people of the great state of America, the great country of America. This last election, 5 states voted on slavery. Okay, and Louisiana actually decided to keep it. Now, this has to do with the incarceration. Like in the 13th Amendment, if you read the first sentence, the sentence frees people. That's always fun to understand. But if you keep reading, it's unless you're a criminal, then you can still be considered a slave. It's still in the Constitution. So that's what the 5 states voted on, and all of them, but Louisiana voted it down, said, okay, that's not going to be the case anymore. But Louisiana, the charming state that it is, decided to keep it. So it looks like we lost Jay again. She was doing fine. I could hear her just fine. Couldn't you?
Yeah, I could hear it fine.
Okay. So go ahead, Patricia. Did you want to say? Patricia, I'm sorry. Did you want to say something?
No, I mean, I was just thinking about what you and Jay were saying about, it affects women not only here in the United States, but this decision about stripping away abortion rights actually affects women all over the world. I mean, like I was saying, abortion is illegal in many countries in Latin America. And I just remember when the decision came here in the United States, the message that we send women in other countries that are fighting to get their rights back is that what their governments are saying, that abortion rights are denied to them, is actually the right thing to do. And they are still fighting, they're still taking to the streets, they're still demanding their rights. And we should too, here in the United States. Whatever happens here, we have to remember that ripples across the world, and the message that we send people matters. We've asked the people in other countries, because we keep contact with women and groups in other countries, how we can support them, and they keep saying, keep fighting for your rights, because the message that the United States has for the whole world has weight. It matters.
It does matter. I agree. So I think I'm being told that I'm talking too much because I'm a man. And that's sorry. I understand that this is about women's rights, but that's not going to fly. I'm not going to stop talking. I'm not a woman. That's ridiculous. That's the whole point of these debates or these issues, is that it doesn't matter. Okay. Anyway, thanks for your input. Anyway, Jay, good to have you back. You seem to be sounding fine. And again, I was just looking at some of the events coming up. So talk more about International Women's Day. Do you know anything about the history of that and that kind of thing?
Yeah, sure. And I know Patricia has a lot of experience with that too. I just want to comment. I think this is an issue for anyone who cares about justice.
Exactly.
I think this is an issue for anyone who cares about humanity and the future for all of us. I wouldn't agree. I think everybody better raise their voice really loud.
Give you more privilege than anybody else's. That's the point. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
So, people may know International Women's Day actually started here in the United States. Women factory workers went on strike after a horrendous accident that killed dozens and dozens of women. Interesting fact: the conditions in the textile factories of Bangladesh today are much worse than they were at the time that women struck and gave us International Women's Day. Okay, it's more deadly, more super exploited, and that's where so many of the clothes on our backs come from. That's where the United States is so rich from. Yeah. And that has everything to do with why people are so passive in this country too. But so International Women's Day was established at a revolutionary socialist conference in the I don't remember the exact year, but in the 1900s. And it's been celebrated around the world ever since. As a day of resistance against patriarchy. And Patricia has seen a lot more than I have.
Yeah, it's a big day. International Women's Day is a big day around the world and other countries. I have not seen so much protest or celebrations or marches in the United States, but I have seen in many in countries. I lived in Sweden, Spain, Mexico, El Salvador. It's big, and even because I'm connected, with activist groups from other countries, Colombia, Guatemala, you name it, Argentina, Spain. Women have, I mean, there's so many things going on for the 8th of March that, when I came back to live in the United States, that's how I found Rise Up for Abortion Rights. I Googled International Women's Day, and I guess the only group that was doing something about abortion rights on that day was Rise Up for Abortion Rights. But it's a big day where women don't want to have roses. They don't want flowers for that day. They want their rights respected and their rights back to them.
Right. So, not to say we need to kill romance completely, but yes, I get it.
So the Revolution Club of Chicago is calling for a rally and march on International Women's Day. We will be there. We're invited. One of their slogans is abortion on demand and without apology for everyone, everywhere, as well as unleash the fury of women as a mighty force for revolution.
Nice.
It's
that. Oh yeah.
The revolution isn't. There won't be a revolution in this country unless women are a central part of it.
That is 100% correct.
So I hope everyone who that rings a chord with, that makes sense, come out. That'll be on Wednesday, March 8th at State and Jackson. So come, raise your voice, and then they're having a celebration on the weekend, an indoor celebration, at their organizing center in South Shore. They do most of their work on the South Side, but they've been in the streets for abortion rights. Even the men too.
Yeah, well, sure. Is it hard to organize a rally? I've never done it. It would take a long time. I mean, you ever try to organize one online and show up and there's nobody there?
We've done a lot of emergency ones. Like the rally we did on Saturday was quite small. We said, because we just heard about this, right? We pulled it together very quickly. There were a couple dozen of us, and we called it sound the alarm. That's what we did. And I would call it a success because we did that. We got we have some WBBM News Radio came. A friend of mine heard it in Iowa City. Heard about our rally in Iowa City. So thousands of people found out about this pending law who never knew about it, and they found out that there are people standing up to it. A group called Rise Up for Abortion. I know we had people signed up on that day, presumably because they heard about it. So
yeah, a lot of people ask too on social media, because we have Instagram, TikTok, we have Facebook. Right. So as soon as we hear about something, we try to post right away. And
it seems like it would be easier nowadays to organize a rally than it would have been before the internet, say. And that probably is the case. But I just see, you look at pictures from back in the 1900s, 20s, 30s, the labor movement and that kind of thing, and just tens of thousands of people would gather and do stuff. It was pretty impressive, how they got that to happen. But it seems like it would be easier nowadays, I hope. But at the same time, I don't know, because and if it is easier, I think what would probably be fix just about everything is a general strike. It's hundreds of thousands to millions of people across the country to not go to work one day, and you will shut the economy down and we'll get whatever we want.
Yeah.
But nobody's doing it. So I don't know.
Well, I think that we live. The United States now is not the United States of 100 years ago.
True.
The U.S. is now the biggest power in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were talking about the super exploitation of workers around the world keeps this country pacified and supports our standard of living, even with all of the incredible inequality in this country. Still, the way people live today is much more comfortable than it was in the Depression. There's no comparison.
Oh, absolutely.
And that plays into that gives a certain privilege to look away, to ignore these horrible inequities, these outrages, and thinking that I can just live my life. I'll just duck and cover, and somehow I'll get through it. There's not that collectivity of in social life, and we're going up against that. Oh yeah, we hear this out on the street. I think I don't agree with that either. Good luck.
They say thank you for marching for us.
Yeah, and it reminds me of that I don't know what you would call it, a poem. I'm not sure. From after World War II, where the idea, well, I don't know if it was actually read by somebody from Nazi Germany, a citizen, but that they came for the gypsies, I didn't say anything. They came for the gays, and I didn't say anything. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't say anything. Then they came for me, and there was nobody left to defend me. That kind of thing. They just keep going down the list. These crazy right-wing white evangelicals just keep. They want a theocracy. I really think they do. And that we can't let that happen. Not even close. And the thing that really upsets me too is that nobody's asking them to not be Christian. It's this whole thing of like if you don't like it, don't do it. But then mind your own business. And if you're opposed to gay marriage, don't marry somebody from the same sex. If you're opposed to abortion, don't have one. It's not rocket science here. Stop forcing everybody to live the way you do. It's not right. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that gets back to what you said. It's a theocracy.
Right.
It will be ruled by their version of God.
Their version of God. Yeah, they definitely think they have a monopoly on that word.
Oh, absolutely. That's part of that mentality. I mean, frankly, it comes with way too much religion, is that certainty that you have the truth and the only truth. And again, they are on the road to a theocracy. It's not just what they want. They are on the road. Marjorie Taylor Greene is much more powerful now than she was a year ago.
Yeah, well, since she got reelected, yeah, for sure.
All of this celebration.
I think most people don't think she would be. Yeah.
No, right. She didn't have any trouble getting reelected at all.
Right.
And that Freedom Caucus, the fascist caucus, is much more powerful. So, and we were supposed to celebrate after the elections. It's such a great victory. It is not. Right now. They have the Supreme Court, they have the House, and they're in a very good place to have the Senate. And they are about changing the law and changing society, regardless of how we vote.
Yeah,
that's what's happening.
Regardless of how we vote is a very pivotal phrase there, because you're right. They don't care about it being a democracy. They don't.
No.
They want it to be a Christian nation. Period.
Public opinion opposed to them is just another hurdle for them to get over.
Right.
Just another barrier to break through. Right. They know full well that the majority supports abortion. That's why they're going about it with this lawsuit to outlaw it, regardless of what you think.
I agree.
Too bad.
100%. 100%. I agree.
And let's be clear: if medication abortion is unavailable, that will make surgical abortion the only option. Clinics in states like Illinois are already really stretched to the limit. My kudos to the people who are working overtime, doing everything they can to supply abortions to everyone who wants them. They can't even do that now.
Wow.
This will mean that thousands and thousands of people who want and need abortions will not get it immediately. It's already estimated roughly 100,000 women and girls have been forced to carry a pregnancy to term just in the last 6 months. It's
That's crazy.
That's with having states, blue states, abortion pills being sent in where they shouldn't be. Even with all of that, and now if the abortion pill goes, this will really be a tsunami of forced motherhood, and female enslavement. It won't matter. You get rape, incest.
Yeah, that's just so disgusting. Yeah, it's this, that female sexuality is for procreation and not pleasure. That's their attitude, but male sexuality is, more about pleasure than procreation. That's part of the misogyny and patriarchy. It's always been like that. You see all sorts of hypocrisy amongst men concerning sexuality, a lot of infidelity. That notion, I mean, it's just so antiquated and archaic. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. It's frustrating. It really is, because
I mean, even in cases that I know from El Salvador, right? I know people that have been in jail for they can't prove that they didn't do an intentional abortion, and when they had like miscarriages, stillbirths, people that have a pregnancy that they know the baby's gonna die when they are born, they're gonna be forced to carry the pregnancy. So many
yeah,
things.
exactly. I have a stillbirth. I mean, oh my God, that's terrifying. I've known people that have had that, and that messes them up for a long time.
It's horrendous. And imagine having to prove that you didn't actually try to abort your fetus.
Prove a negative. That's very rarely can that be done, and it's almost only done in like formal deductive mathematics and logic, where you can do that. You can't do that with like empirical of like basic experiences. No. To prove that I didn't do that, I don't know. How do I do that?
And Patricia was involved with a film that she spoke at here. Fly Away? No.
Fly So Far.
Fly So Far.
What was that about?
Oh, it's about the situation about, the women in El Salvador, and mainly about what they're going through, and, they end up in jail. Some countries like El Salvador, Dominican Republic, Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua, all these countries, even in Peru, people have sent us pictures about in their hospitals, their posters saying, if you're here and we suspect you're having an abortion, we are calling the police. These are countries where women go having miscarriages or whatever complications with their pregnancy. They go bleeding to hospitals. Their doctors are so scared about these restrictive laws that they have to report everything, and they have to call the police.
That's ridiculous. That just screams Nazi.
And it handcuffs, women to the beds at the hospital because they're suspects.
Wow, that's insane. And I'm wondering too, do you know, and we only have a couple minutes left, do you know, what are doctors saying? I mean, outside of abortion, like just the general medical community, healthcare community, what are they? Because I just wonder, why don't they just say, you know what, if you keep doing this in states where they outlawed it, we're gonna take our practice somewhere else, and you're not gonna have any healthcare.
Right. They have issued statements. The AMA has come out opposed to all of this. They all filed amicus briefs opposed to this lawsuit in Texas. I don't know that there's been enough actually taking the risk to stand up and say no. Right. I don't know. Right. We've we have a shortage of people taking that risk, standing up, refusing to go along. I was just listening to a podcast from Refuse Fascism today, and they quoted Timothy Snyder, one of the first commandments if you're fighting an authoritarian fascist regime is to not comply. Right. Not comply in advance. We have way too much compliance and waiting for somebody else to take care of it. And Rise Up for Abortion Rights is based on the understanding that it's on all of us. And, and everybody can contribute one way or another. Everybody can't go out on the street. I understand that. But a lot more people can. And you can bring your friends and you can spread the word. You can host us on your podcast. Thank you, Dave. It's all part of this struggle. And I really hope, I invite people to come to our website and sign up and get involved and get text alerts. We will be in the street again. We certainly will when this judge comes out with his ruling. And whatever comes up, we're learning from our sisters and siblings in Latin America.
Yeah, we go out on the street, protest, demand our rights, and make our voices heard in a peaceful way. No violence.
Great. And I hope that works. I hope that's effective. I know that in the 60s, protests did have an effect. Just not, like I said, it wasn't as quick of an effect as riots have. There was a good gentleman in Michigan, African American gentleman who stopped a robber in a store, and he got like the city's Medal of Honor or something. And they had a public appearance where he got up next to the chief of police, and he's like, he took off his shirt like in white supremacy, and he's right next to the chief of police, who's a white guy. He's like, look, they're not going to protect us. I had to do this because they won't. Blah 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 blah. At the very end, he's like, riots work, and walks off. I was like, whoa, wow, nice job. The chief of police like, okay, thanks, guy. Like he didn't know what to say. But I have a philosophy degree. I'm a very reasonable, peaceful guy. I prefer reason over violence every single time, except for when it doesn't work. And I just don't see people I don't see our government listening to reason sometimes. So I don't know. I'm not advocating for anything I shouldn't be, but I'm just saying that, don't leave everything off the table. All right, we are at the end of the show. So thank you, ladies, so much for coming on. Seriously, I had a great time, great conversation. If you could just hang on until the camera goes off, I want to chat about something real quick. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Illinois Green Party series. Again, here is the address to go to get involved with Rise Up for Abortion Rights. And riseupfораbortionrights.org. Just put all those together. Number 4, not the word 4. You can go to the website or just Google it. Google will take you there, and everything will be great. So thank you for everything you do. Seriously, this is important stuff, and we're gonna have you on again because we need to keep updated because this is a very current hot topic issue. Okay, so yeah, we're not talking about Tylenol back in the 80s. So this is very important. So, okay, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to the Great Party series.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Till next time, be good, be green.